Well, it wouldn't be nice of me, if every once in a while I didn't catch me a confused catfish on a tube. They're such a pain in the rear end. And they'll cut you too. Hi everybody. Anytime I go fishing, about a day or two before I go, I start checking the weather. It gives me an idea of what I want to start with. I call it my starting lineup. This morning my starting lineup was a topwater, a crankbait, and a spinnerbait. I figured with having some fog, I knew I was going to have some fog when I came out here this morning, and a little bit of light wind, that these fish would be moving pretty actively. Well, I was wrong. I didn't get a single bite on any of those three baits. It actually started out pretty tough. The fish weren't doing what I expected them to do. So when the bass aren't biting and you're not sure what to do, you're going to have to make some adjustments. I have a rule of thumb. If I think the bass are moving fast and they're actively feeding, I'm going to fish faster. I'm going to throw out those crankbaits, those topwaters, jerk baits. I'm going to fish fast. But if I think they've slowed down and they're not as active, I'm going to slow down, way down. One of the mistakes in bass fishing, I've done it, everybody's done it. You come out to a lake, you have some baits tied on, you get stubborn, and you decide if those bass don't bite on these baits, I'm going to make them bite on them. And you wind up having a bad day because they don't want to bite on that. A lot of times when I get a day like that, I just slow it down. You can cover a lot of water in bass fishing really fast and go right by a lot of bass. I like to slow it down, cover an area thoroughly, and try to figure out what they're going to bite on. So this morning, I had success with what is called a shaky head. I've got a little football head, shaky head jig here, and the bait that I'm using here is a Zoom swamp crawler. You can get a pack of these. They come in like 25. The color I'm using is pumpkin. That's all they call it. So it kind of looks like a little bait fish. Now this has a little screw lock, so you screw the bait on. I've tore this bait up, so I'm gonna have to keep it on there. And then what I do is I just take and I put the hook right underneath the bait. I want the hook exposed a little bit, and it's gonna wind up looking like this. And when you throw it in the water, this tail is gonna move. Now, what I do is I twitch the slack. I let the slack lay on top of the water and I just twitch the slack. I literally slap the water with the slack in my line. And what it does is it slowly moves this bait. You want this bait to move slow. And that tail is gonna move around and the bass bite it. It's a great finesse technique when the bass are not moving quite as fast as you hope they would. Just a shaky head. Shaky head worm is a very effective way of catching bass. You really kind of slow things down with it. These are called little Zoom swamp crawlers. This color is pumpkin, so it looks really natural in the water. And I catch a lot of bass out here when I'm slow fishing on this shaky head, and it really is a great way to catch them. Of course, the other bait that worked, when things are tough, and in the summertime, generally, my morning bite out at this lake is phenomenal. This morning it wasn't. So I used the shaky head, and that's how I caught them. This thing slowed down though, they didn't want it anymore. So I started getting around 11, 12 o'clock, hadn't had a bite in a while. Well, now I know what I gotta do. I gotta pull out the Ned Rig. I saved the Ned Rig. I don't like to start with the Ned Rig. I save the Ned Rig when I know the bite is tough and I need this thing. This little bait has bailed me out so many times on a tough bite. I use the lightest little head, the Z-Man Shroomz. I use a real light weight. The lighter weight you use on a Ned rig, the better it works. Of course, I use the Zoom TRD worms, okay? They have that Elastec, they last a long time. And the color I chose today was peanut butter and jelly. And this worked really well. I went to a dock and I've been catching a lot of the spotted bass. I was catching them pretty small. So I decided to target largemouth bass. And that's what I was raised up on. I was raised up on catching largemouth bass. They're all related, but they also have different behavior. It's getting hot out here. I figure, you know what, if I could just find some shade, I could probably find some largemouth bass. So I saw a dock as I was roaming around, and it didn't have a boat in it. It had a cover, and there was plenty of shade. And what I was doing was just casting back there in a way that I'm not going to hit the top of the dock, and I'm getting way back in there, and I got a couple of nice largemouth bass, a 2 and a 3 pounder. Another nice largemouth here, it looks like. That mouth. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a nice largemouth right there. Oh yeah. That's a good one there. Nice fat chunky largemouth. I'm gonna weigh him. So when things get rough, don't go crazy covering a lot of water. And if you do cover water, cover it slowly. The slower you go, the better. Shaky head is a great way to catch them, but if you fished the Ned rig before, you know the power of this bait. Well, I hope these tips help you. I'm getting ready to go home and think about dinner. I'll talk to you soon. There we go. There we go. Well, I've had to be really patient today. Fishing has been tough, except for this morning. I got me a nice, probably about 2 pound largemouth bass here, nice big mouth. Got him under a dock here in some shade where I would expect a largemouth to be this time of day. It's warming up out here. Summertime fishing, you know, can be pretty tough. But this right here is an absolutely beautiful largemouth bass. I love these guys. I'll let him go.